I'm going to tell you a story now about Tom and Cynthia Dunbabin. This is a biodiversity story. Tom and Cynthia have a couple of beautiful properties in Tasmania. And I was working with Tom. He was one of my members of a reference group. We had a reference group of woolgrowers, and we were trying to improve biodiversity on farm. So I had 6 men, this is the wool industry, so it was 6 men, and they were between 55 and 65, and they were all quite successful wool growers, but they actually wanted to get some biodiversity outcomes on farm. So Tom said to me, it's all about profit. This is my interactive piece. And this is in fact Tom. My husband though, different Tom. Younger model, yeah. So he said to me, Siwan, it is all about profit. It's all about how much money I can make by improving my riverbank area. Now, I can't give you direct figures on that. It's very difficult to prove that he's going to get a lot more money. So we started talking about a few other things. So I started talking to him about proof. This is my sister-in-law, Bridget. I brought my own crowd in case no one turned up. So the proof part was, yes, I have the proof. I have the proof, the scientific proof, that if you put more riverbank trees in along your riverbanks, your water quality will improve, you'll get wildlife outcomes, you'll get better biodiversity outcomes, you might even be able to harvest some of that timber later on. You could have a living haystack so that when you're in drought, your sheep will be let in for short periods of time. So I had a whole range of proof. And I said, Tom, what is it actually about your river area that you like? And he said, well, you know, my dad used to go there. And I said, oh, okay. And we're just sidling up here with the third P. And he said, I really value it as a place because it connects me to my people. So Nerida is our people person. She's a people person as well, actually. So it was all about generational change, and it was all about him having the property left for his family. And it was also about his connection to place. It's all the way from Canberra. Can we give Finn a round of applause? So the connection to place was incredibly important. He had lived on that property for years and years. His stories were all about the property. His stories were all about what had changed over time. His stories were about the type of sheep that they'd grown there and how the wool quality had improved and how they used to have dances on the property and they used to do a whole range of things. And once he started talking about place and people, suddenly the proof and the profit could make sense. There was a context. I could show them how the proof could help him realise further the people. And then the profit changed. So the profit changed from just money to a social profit and to an environmental profit. So you've got a whole range of multiple benefits. But there was one final piece to this 5P story, and that was the promise, and Tim's being our promise person. When we enter into a relationship with anyone, we make promises, whether they're explicit or implicit. But when you're out working in natural resources management land, you're often faced with very short time frames and very high expectations. I was able to promise to Tom that I could work with him for 5 years. I could collect his stories and I could make science relevant to him on his property. And he was able to promise me that he would stop his sheep from getting into my exclosures so that my science wouldn't get compromised. And he could promise me that he would continue doing the work he was doing. And when we made those promises, that was the basis for our relationship. So profit, proof, you're meant to put your arms up, Bridget, people, place and promise have turned out to be something that we use time and time again. And if you're in the business of working with people, I'd encourage you to look at using these 5 Ps. Now, I'll tell you another story. This is Lindsay and Biz Nicholson. They're also wool growers. Now, no, you have to stay there for a bit longer. So for Lindsay and Biz, it was all about their sense of place. You lift up the place one? So it was place. And they had a place called Buffalo Brook, which was a very degraded river running through their property. And they came to us because they wanted to fence out the riparian area, which they did, and they actually fenced it back 20 metres, which is just, fantastic for anyone working in natural resources management because you can get such a range of benefits from that. They fenced out Buffalo Brook, and they're actually sitting on Buffalo Brook there. And that actually enabled them to diversify their property so that they now run a thriving native plant nursery which is taking over from their wool and meat business. So it started off with a connection to place and wanting to make that work. We were able to apply the proof. Their family now all work on the property, so that's the people. They've got 3 generations working on the property. We made a promise that we would actually help them to do this, and they're now making quite a lot of money as well as social and environmental gains. Okay, my final one, you're doing very, very well. Now, this is Pete Davies, and Pete got this hat when he was overseas, and he said to me that in America he is a living example of all hat and no ranch. So you really have to look at how big his hat is. He's doing sciencey things on a river in southwest Western Australia. And for those of you who are interested in biodiversity, you know that southwest Western Australia is a biodiversity hotspot. And it is an incredible part of our country. But for Pete, it's really quite alarming because there's nowhere for that biodiversity to go. As the temperature increases, the only place it can go is into the sea. So he's doing a lot of work around communicating about the southwest of Western Australia. So for him, he has a whole lot of proof. He happens to be a very good storyteller and have a very strong connection to place, and he's engaging a whole lot of people. Profit for him is not at all about money, it's all about environment and social gain. And he is promising the people he is working with that he will do his very best to communicate and share his information. The 5 Ps in action. So if there's nothing else that you remember today but the 5 Ps, that would be great. Can you give my assistants a round of applause here? So I put stories to work, and I suggest that most of you put stories to work as well. How many of you get told off in the office place if you're having a conversation in the kitchen or it's not seen as properly doing work? Yes? So proper work is when you're faced at the computer and you don't get up off the computer and you don't look at anybody else. Well, I can tell you that is a highly unproductive workplace. Workplaces that provide opportunities for people to talk and to catch up, to have a big table in the middle of a big room so you can share information and knowledge are incredibly important. We need to connect because that's how we make sense of our world. Stories are powerful. They delight, they enchant, they touch, they teach, they inspire. We all know that often the most charismatic people are those that can tell great stories. All of our religious traditions had great storytellers. Stories connect people, they make things real. If you want to make a point or raise an issue, tell a story. And we're going to hear and look at a wonderful story now by Randy Olson, who is a marine biologist who decided that his messages about what was happening to the planet and to the ocean were not being heard. So he became a storyteller, and he used film to do it. So we're just going to look at a short 5-minute film about the majestic plastic bag. Go and Google that story. It's called The Majestic Plastic Bag. And what he does is use a David Attenborough approach to watching the travelling, I suppose, of the plastic bag as it moves out into the ocean, where there's actually an enormous pile of plastic that is being held there by the currents. And it's real. But it's a very, very good story. The other one is The Power of a Good Story, which is a bit of fun. If you're ever actually trying to get some storytelling in your organisation, it's a good fun one to do, and you can find information about that on our website. What I encourage you to do, though, is to continue to tell stories. To be human is to tell stories, and hopefully you will, after today, remember those 5 Ps as well for a really good story. But good luck with your storytelling, and please continue to tell stories. And Frank is now going to help us tell stories by bridging the shy gulf.
That's it.
That's it.
Let's go on.
Good.
Petrified that wasn't going to happen, but it did. It happened. There it is, ladies and gentlemen.